Okay. So kia ora koutou. It's a pleasure to be here. Delight to be invited to talk about regenerative agriculture in New Zealand. I'm a senior researcher at Manaaki Whenua Landcare Research, and I've spent the last 4 years of my working life diving into what is regenerative agriculture and has it got the potential to help New Zealand resolve some of its environmental, social, and potentially some of its economical issue amongst the farming community. So just very quickly, I'm going to go through some attempt to take you through what we understand is regenerative agriculture, give you some New Zealand examples, because this is a buzzword that mostly came from the United States. Have a little dive into what we need to know about it in order to decide whether we want to roll it out all over New Zealand or not. And then some perspective on whether it has the potential to help New Zealand meet the target 2.4 of the SDG. So in terms of definition, there is a lot of debate on the press to whether it has a definition, whether it should be defined. And at the moment, we've talked to a lot of people and we've decided we don't really want to set up a really clear and concise definition, because it will halt its ability to evolve. And what we critically need at the moment is to stay adaptive and flexible and forward-looking. So the definition is more in terms of principles. So RegenAg rely on the 5 principles of soil health that were developed by the USDA and the Soil Health Coalition in the United States, and which is keep your soil cover, limit the disturbance, so reduce tillage, keep living roots all year round, increase and harness diversity, and integrate livestock regardless of the land use. And what we did in the last year is we rolled out some consultation with leading regenerative practitioners. As a result of this, we also looked at what research was really needed for us to make decision about RegenAg in New Zealand, and we released our white paper last month, so you can find it online. It's publicly available. When talking to the RegenAg practitioners, we found out that what they see as regenerative agriculture is to be outcome focused, principles driven, and not defined by the practices, which of course defeats and slightly challenge the scientists, because we usually design our experiment based on practices that we want to compare. So here we emerge with these practitioners 11 principles, and you can see that half of them on the left are mindset and attitude, and half of them on the right are basically similar to the 5 principles of soil health. In the mindset and attitude, there is a very key one, which is to make context-specific decision, which means one size doesn't fit all. Every farm is different. Every farm is unique. And what might work in one place of the country might not work in other places of the country. So just to give you an example, this is a vineyard on its pathway to embracing regenerative agriculture. It's doing very well. It's won quite a lot of awards in 2019. And you can see that instead of having a really clean, nicely mown grass, you have a kind of a mess in between the vines, the row of vines with cover crops, multi-species. So a very different way of managing the vineyard. Here is an example of a dairy regenerative operation. On the left, you can see that the cows are grazing with a very high cover of grass. And on the right, when we do a close-up photo, you can see that the diversity of the forage that they're being offered is very high. And so the principle is to increase your diversity, increase the amount of grass that grows, so you increase the amount of carbon that is then injecting into the soil. You change the pasture composition, you change the feed quality that you feed to your cows. Right. So in terms of, we consulted a lot of people, and we tried to emerge the main research areas that we need to dive into for us to really understand what is the potential that RegenAg has to offer for New Zealand. At the same time, a small group of us led a pilot study comparing mostly a livestock operation that were applying a regenerative management versus a livestock operation that were operating a conventional management. And so this is a small pilot study. It's still being written up, so it's still unpublished and unreviewed. But I can share with you that what we found is, although we had a slightly higher amount of carbon per hectare, the mean were not different, so we couldn't find any detectable significant increase in soil carbon. We also found no decrease in soil nitrogen stocks, despite the practitioners reducing substantially the amount of fertilizer that they used. And we found a very significant increase in soil health. So potentially some impact on the environment that are positive. Now, looking at the practices that have been scrutinized, this is the draft new farm planning guidance from MFE. So this was the draft that was put online in December. When you look at all the practices that they are suggesting farmers embrace to decrease their greenhouse gas emission, most of them are actually already embraced by the regenerative practitioners, and there are some others that they are doing that also have a great potential. And I would like to finish by, in terms of the potential, so I'm showing you some preliminary data that suggests there is some advantage to be had. But really, my main thinking has been, if we're going to meet the SDG, this needs to be a collaborative effort, and it needs to be done across the board in a wider agri-food system. And what we're seeing really clear signal from the investors, with BNZ now, the announcement of a new loan to promote biodiversity and freshwater positive outcome. The New Zealand merino company that is launching its first regenerative wool certificate. And then across the borders, you have other initiatives that are really pushing this regenerative agriculture context. So as far as I'm concerned, this is not my personal opinion. I think the scientists have there's a great value in looking at what regenerative can offer, because there's a huge momentum that is not only coming from the grassroots, but also from all the investors, and in some countries, it's political willingness to push this forward. And that's it for me. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Gwen.